Have you ever pulled a prank so perfectly executed that you thought you were untouchable? Have you ever underestimated someone so completely that when they finally responded, it changed you forever? My name is Jake Morrison. I'm a locomotive engineer. I drive trains for a living. And this is the story of the greatest prank war I ever witnessed, the two most opposite men I've ever met, and the day I learned that the quietest people often have the loudest lessons to teach. This is the story of East and Mo and the revenge that became legendary.
Before I tell you about what happened, you need to understand our world. The world of train engineers isn't what most people imagine. It's not glamorous. It's long hours, early mornings, isolation in a cab for 8 to 12 hours straight, and a kind of monotony that either drives you crazy or turns you into a philosopher. We work for North Pacific Rail, a freight company operating across Oregon and Washington. Our depot is in Portland, and from there, we haul everything. Timber, grain, containers from the port, you name it. It's honest work, hard work. And like any job where you spend that much time with the same people, we develop, let's call them strong personalities. I've been doing this for 15 years. Started when I was 23, right out of community college, with a certification and a dream of seeing the country from a train cab. That romantic notion lasted about 6 months before reality set in. You see the same routes, the same scenery, the same faces. But the people make it worthwhile. And two of those people were about as different as two human beings could possibly be.
Let me tell you about Winston Eastwood. Everyone called him East. 42 years old, built like a bear with a laugh that could shake the windows and a sense of humor that ranged from clever to absolutely juvenile. East was a legend at the depot, not because he was the best engineer, though he was damn good at his job, but because he made every single day entertaining in a job that could otherwise be mind-numbingly dull. His pranks were, well, they were something. There was the time he rigged a fart machine under the break room table and controlled it with a remote in his pocket. For an entire week, every time someone sat down for lunch, strategic farting noises would erupt. Grown men were accusing each other, getting defensive, some even going to HR to complain about digestive issues in the workplace. East never confessed, just sat there grinning while chaos unfolded. Then there was the incident with the fart pills. For those who don't know, they're these novelty pills that supposedly make you gassy. Mostly they just smell terrible when dissolved in liquid. East dropped about 20 of them in the depot water cooler. The entire office smelled like sulfur and rotten eggs for 3 days. They had to bring in a cleaning crew. Management never figured out who did it. But East's masterpiece, the thing that made him truly legendary, was what he did while actually driving trains. Picture this. You're waiting at a railway crossing. The gates come down. You see the locomotive approaching. And as it passes, you see the engineer's window, and there's a grown man pressing his bare ass against the glass. That was East. Or sometimes he'd wear a gorilla mask, or hold up signs with jokes, or do a full choreographed dance. He brought joy to commuters and freight yard workers alike. People would specifically come out to watch when they knew East was on a route. Management tried to discipline him once. The union rep defended him by arguing that maintaining morale during long shifts is crucial for safety. They couldn't really argue with that. East was crude, yes, his humor leaned toward the raunchy, but it was good-natured. He never punched down, never made anyone truly uncomfortable. He just lived to make people laugh. And then there was Mo.
Maurice Callahan. Everyone called him Mo. 56 years old, thin, always impeccably dressed, button-down shirts, pressed slacks, and yes, always a tie. Even in the locomotive cab where no one would see him except maybe a freight yard worker at 3 a.m. "Standards, Jake," he'd say when I asked him about it once. "We maintain standards not for others, but for ourselves." Mo had been an engineer for 30 years. He knew every regulation, every protocol, every inch of every route. If you had a question about procedure, you asked Mo. If something went wrong mechanically, Mo could diagnose it. He was the guy they'd send to train new engineers because he was patient, thorough, and never cut corners. He was also deeply religious. Catholic. Not the preachy kind, he never pushed it on anyone, but it was clearly the foundation of his entire life. He'd quietly say grace before eating his packed lunch, he had a small rosary hanging from his rearview mirror, and on Sundays he was at church without fail. Mo and his wife Margaret had been married for 35 years. High school sweethearts. They had 4 kids, all grown now, and 6 grandchildren. Margaret was a retired school teacher, sweet as pie, and together they were the kind of couple that still held hands after decades of marriage. Mo had this routine. Every day after his shift, he'd come home, and Margaret would meet him at the door. He'd hand her his work backpack, a sturdy canvas thing where he kept his lunch containers, paperwork, a thermos, his reading glasses, and she'd take it to the kitchen to unpack and clean everything while he went upstairs to wash up from the day. It was their little ritual, a small act of service and care that had been going on for years. Mo had mentioned this routine once during a lunch break, just casual conversation. "Margaret takes such good care of me," he'd said with genuine appreciation. "Every day, like clockwork. I'm a lucky man." Most of us smiled and nodded. It was sweet. But East heard that and saw opportunity.
It started innocently enough. Well, as innocent as East's pranks ever got. We were all in the break room one afternoon, myself, East, Mo, a few other engineers. East was telling some ridiculous story about a bachelor party gone wrong, complete with hand gestures and sound effects. Mo was eating his sandwich, politely smiling, but clearly not entirely comfortable with the raunchier details. After Mo left to start his afternoon shift, East turned to the rest of us with that look, the one that meant he was scheming. "I've got an idea," he announced. "Oh no," I said. "What are you planning?" "Mo, and his wife, and that backpack routine." "East, don't. Hear me out. It's harmless. I'm just gonna slip something into his bag. Something unexpected for Mrs. Callahan to find." "What kind of something?" someone asked warily. East grinned. "Couple of adult magazines. Nothing crazy. Just enough to make her do a double take. Can you imagine Mr. Proper and Prim coming home with porn in his bag? The look on her face." We all groaned, but honestly, it was pretty harmless as far as East's pranks went. Mo would be embarrassed, maybe, but he'd laugh it off. Margaret would probably find it funny eventually. "How are you even going to do it?" I asked. "Mo guards that bag." "I've got a plan." 2 days later, East executed it. Mo had left his backpack in the locker room while he went to file paperwork. East, moving faster than I'd ever seen him move, unzipped the bag, slipped 2 magazines into the bottom under Mo's lunch containers, zipped it back up, and was gone before anyone could say anything. Mo came back, grabbed his bag, none the wiser, and headed home for the day. East was giddy. "Oh man, I can't wait to hear about this. Mo's gonna lose his mind." We waited. Next day, nothing. Day after that, nothing. Mo came in, pleasant as ever, said good morning, drank his coffee, started his shift. No mention of magazines, no confrontation, no acknowledgement whatsoever. "Maybe his wife didn't find them," I suggested. "Impossible," East said. "She unpacks that bag every single day. She found them." "Then why isn't he saying anything?" East shrugged. "Maybe he's too embarrassed, or maybe he's plotting." "Plotting what?" "I don't know, but Mo's a smart guy. If he's quiet, there's a reason." 2 weeks passed. Still nothing. The magazines weren't returned. Mo didn't bring it up. It was like it never happened. East started to get antsy. Should I ask him about it? "Absolutely not," I advised. "You got away with it. Don't push your luck." "But where's the fun if there's no reaction?" "Maybe that is the reaction. He's ignoring it, being the bigger person." East seemed disappointed, but he let it go. Life at the depot returned to normal. And then, 3 weeks after the prank, Mo approached East in the parking lot.
Winston, Mo called out. He was one of the few people who used East's actual first name. East turned. Hey, Mo, what's up? Mo walked over, friendly smile on his face. I wanted to extend an invitation. This Saturday, Margaret and I are having a little gathering at our house. Just some colleagues, some beers, casual get-together. Thought you might like to join us. East was surprised. Mo had never invited him anywhere before. They were friendly at work, but not exactly social outside of it. Really? Yeah, man, that sounds great. Wonderful. Let me give you our address. Mo pulled out a small card, because of course he had pre-written cards, and handed it to East. Say around 2 p.m., nothing formal, just relaxing after a long work week. I'll be there. Should I bring anything? Oh, just yourself. Though if you'd like to bring some beverages, we certainly wouldn't say no. Mo smiled warmly. We're looking forward to it. East was genuinely pleased. Thanks, Mo. I appreciate the invite. They shook hands and Mo walked to his car. I was standing nearby, having witnessed the exchange. East came over to me, grinning. Did you hear that? Mo invited me to his house for beers and hanging out. Maybe he's cooler than I thought. Or, I started. Or what? Or he's planning something. East laughed. Come on, it's Mo. The man's a saint. He probably just wants to be friendly. East, you put porn in his wife's hands 3 weeks ago. Which he never mentioned. Water under the bridge. If you say so. You're being paranoid, Jake. Sometimes an invitation is just an invitation. I wasn't convinced, but East was determined to go. That Saturday, East showed up at Mo's house at exactly 2 p.m. He'd bought a nice 6-pack of craft beer, worn his best jeans and a button-down shirt, his version of dressing up, and brought his usual cheerful energy. Mo's house was in a quiet neighborhood, a beautiful 2-story craftsman with a well-maintained garden and American flag on the porch. Very Mo. East rang the doorbell. Mo answered immediately, Margaret beside him. Winston, so glad you could make it. Come in, come in. Thanks for having me. East handed over the beer, brought some local IPA. How thoughtful, Margaret said sweetly. Let me take those to the kitchen. Mo put a hand on East's shoulder. Everyone's already here. They're gathering in the living room. Let me show you. Great. How many people are we talking? Oh, a good group. About 30 or so. East blanked. 30? Wow, that's a lot for a casual get-together. We like to bring people together, Mo said warmly. Community is so important, don't you think? They walked through the house. Neat, comfortable, family photos everywhere. East could hear voices from the living room. A lot of voices. Mo opened the double doors to the living room. And East's smile froze. The room was full of people. 30, maybe 40 people. All dressed nicely, all seated in rows of chairs. At the front of the room was a portable keyboard, a small podium, and a man in clerical collar. A priest. This wasn't a casual beer and colleagues gathering. This was a church service. Everyone, Mo said loudly, getting their attention, this is my dear friend Winston from work. He's joining us for today's service. Winston, please have a seat up front. Before East could process what was happening, Mo was guiding him to a seat in the very front row. People were smiling, nodding hello, shaking his hand. Margaret handed him a booklet with the order of service. East looked at Mo with dawning realization. Mo looked back with the most serene, innocent smile imaginable. I'm so glad you could join us, Winston. We're about to begin. And then Mo took a seat next to Margaret, several rows behind East, leaving him stranded in the front row. The priest approached the podium. Good afternoon, everyone. Let us begin with a prayer. East was trapped. What followed was, by East's later account, the longest 2 hours of his entire life. It started with hymns. The keyboard player launched into amazing grace, and everyone around East stood and began singing with full-throated enthusiasm. East, a man who'd never been to church in his adult life, stood awkwardly, holding the hymn booklet, mouthing words he didn't know. Mo's voice rang out from behind him, clear and confident. East could feel him back there, singing with genuine joy. Then came the readings. The priest read from Scripture.
East tried to pay attention, he really did, but his mind kept wandering to how spectacularly he'd been outplayed. Mo had waited, planned, executed perfectly. The sermon began. The priest was actually quite good, thoughtful, engaging, talking about forgiveness and patience and how we're tested by life's challenges. East couldn't help but feel like some of it was directed specifically at him. At one point, the priest said, "Sometimes, brothers and sisters, we are given opportunities to teach through actions rather than words, to show grace under pressure, to respond to provocation not with anger, but with creativity and love." East heard someone behind him, definitely Mo, murmur, "Amen." More hymns followed. More prayers. A responsive reading where East had to fumble through his booklet to figure out which parts the congregation was supposed to say. Everyone else seemed to know it by heart. During the responsive reading, East had to stand and recite lines about turning away from sin and walking in righteousness. He could feel Mo's eyes on him the whole time. Then came communion. East, not being Catholic, wasn't sure what to do. The priest, bless him, kindly indicated that East could simply stay seated or come forward for a blessing. East opted to stay seated while everyone else filed up. As they did, Mo walked past East's row. He gave him a small, warm pat on the shoulder. "Doing well," he whispered encouragingly. The service finally concluded with a closing hymn and benediction. The priest dismissed them with, "Go in peace to love and serve the Lord." "Thanks be to God," everyone responded in unison. Everyone except East, who just stood there in shell-shocked silence.
As people began to mingle, Mo made his way to East. Margaret was beside him, offering cookies from a tray to departing congregants. "Winston, I do hope you enjoyed yourself," Mo said with perfect sincerity. East stared at him. "Mo, that was spiritually enriching," Mo suggested helpfully. "That was a church service." "It was indeed. We hold these at our home once a month. Such a blessing to gather as a community." "You invited me to beers with colleagues." "Did I? I said we were having a gathering with some friends and that there'd be beverages," which there were. Mo gestured to a table where coffee and punch were set out. "I don't recall mentioning beer specifically. Perhaps that was an assumption?" East opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Mo continued, his expression never wavering from pleasant warmth. "I want to thank you for coming, Winston. It means a great deal when friends support each other in their faith journeys, don't you think?" The weight of the statement hung in the air. "The magazines," East finally said quietly. "I'm sorry?" Mo tilted his head innocently. "The magazines I put in your bag." "Oh," Mo's expression brightened as if just remembering. "Yes, Margaret found those. Quite unexpected. She immediately disposed of them, of course. Not appropriate materials for our home." "Mo, But you know, Winston, Margaret and I talked about it, and we realized that perhaps you were going through something. Perhaps you needed guidance, support, community." Mo placed a gentle hand on East's shoulder. "So we prayed for you, and I thought, what better way to show Christian charity than to invite you to join us in fellowship?" East was speechless. "I do hope you'll join us again," Mo said. "We gather monthly. You're always welcome." I don't think. Of course, only if you'd like to. No pressure. But I did want you to know, Margaret and I forgive you for the prank. We understand you meant no real harm, and we hope this experience has been enlightening." Margaret appeared at Mo's elbow. "Winston, so wonderful to meet you. Marie speaks so highly of you. You simply must try one of these cookies before you go." She pressed a cookie into his hand. East took it numbly. Mo walked East to the door. Other congregants were still chatting, completely unaware of the elaborate revenge that had just unfolded. At the door, Mo extended his hand. East shook it. "Thank you for coming, Winston. Drive safe. See you Monday at work." "Yeah, Monday. Right." East walked to his car in a daze. He got in, started the engine, and just sat there for a moment.
Then he started laughing. Couldn't help it. He'd been absolutely, thoroughly, completely outplayed.
Monday morning at the depot, East came in uncharacteristically quiet. I was there early, saw him walk in. So I asked, how was Saturday? East just looked at me. Then he told me everything. By lunchtime, the entire depot knew. By the end of the week, it was depot legend. Mo never said a word about it to anyone else. When people asked him about the gathering, he'd just smile and say, "Oh yes, Winston joined us for our monthly service. Lovely afternoon." East, for his part, took it with surprising grace. He told the story himself, always ending with, "I got, fair and square. The man is a genius." But here's the thing. East never pranked Mo again. Not once. Not even gentle ones. It wasn't out of fear. It was respect. He realized that Mo wasn't just some uptight religious guy. Mo was patient, strategic, and when pushed, absolutely capable of delivering perfect, proportionate justice. Mo had never yelled, never complained, never gotten angry. He'd simply waited for the perfect opportunity and then executed a prank so brilliant, so perfectly tailored to who East was as a person, that it became unforgettable.
Here's something unexpected. East and Mo actually became better friends after that. Not close friends, they were still too different for that, but there was a new respect there. East would occasionally ask Mo for advice on things. Mo would sometimes join in when the guys were telling stories, even laughing at some of East's tamer jokes. A few months later, East's mom passed away, cancer. It was sudden and devastating for him. Mo was the first person at the depot to reach out. He drove to East's house with a casserole from Margaret, sat with East for hours, just listening. He helped arrange the funeral service, connected East with grief counselors through his church. "You don't have to do all this," East told him. "I know I'm not your kind of... You're my colleague, my friend. Of course I'm going to help." At the funeral, Mo showed up with Margaret. They sat in the back, quiet and respectful. Afterward, at the reception, Mo found East. "Your mother was clearly a remarkable woman," Mo said. "You spoke beautifully about her." East, eyes red from crying, managed a small smile. "Thanks, Mo. And thanks for everything. Of course, if you need anything at all, you call me." They hugged. Two men who couldn't be more different, connected by mutual respect, forged through a prank war, and cemented through genuine care.
Years have passed since the great church service prank, as it's now known. I still work at North Pacific Rail. So does East. Mo retired a few years ago, though he sometimes stops by the depot to visit. The story has taken on mythic status. New engineers hear about it during training. Never underestimate Mo has become unofficial depot wisdom. But the real lesson isn't about pranks or revenge. It's about assumptions. East assumed Mo was just a stuffy religious guy who couldn't take a joke. He saw the tie, the orderliness, the quiet demeanor, and thought that meant Mo was boring, predictable, an easy target. He was wrong. Mo was patient, yes, but he was also observant, creative, and when necessary, absolutely brilliant at making a point. East learned that the quiet ones aren't weak, they're strategic, that religious doesn't mean humorless, that different doesn't mean lesser. And Mo learned that sometimes the loud jokesters are covering for something deeper, that beneath the crude humor, East was actually a good man who cared about people, that different approaches to life can coexist with mutual respect. I've thought about that afternoon a lot over the years, about how Mo could have reported East to HR, could have confronted him angrily, could have made a big scene and created lasting animosity. Instead, he crafted a response that was proportionate, harmless, and absolutely memorable. He taught East a lesson without humiliating him beyond repair. He set a boundary while leaving room for redemption. That's wisdom. These days, when new guys start at the depot and ask about East and his pranks, I tell them, East is legendary, but he learned the most important rule: know your target. Because some people, the ones you least expect, will absolutely surprise you. And then I tell them about Mo, about the magazines, about the church service, about the revenge that became a friendship. Because in the end, that's what makes a good story. Not the prank itself, but what came after. Not the conflict, but the resolution. Not the revenge, but the respect that followed. East still drives trains, still makes jokes, though they're a touch less crude these days. Mo's retired now, spending time with Margaret and their grandkids, occasionally showing up at depot gatherings where he and East will shake hands, share a knowing smile, and maybe even toast to that legendary Saturday afternoon. And me? I learned to never underestimate anyone. The prankster might be vulnerable, the gentleman might be brilliant, and sometimes the best response to chaos is a carefully planned moment of peace, or in most cases, 2 hours of psalms.
If you're watching this thinking about pulling a prank on someone, remember, it's not always the person who strikes first who wins. Sometimes it's the person who waits, who observes, who understands their opponent well enough to deliver not just revenge, but a lesson. East thought he understood Mo. Turns out, Mo understood East far better. The magazines were juvenile, the church service was brilliant. And that's the difference between making a joke and making a point. My name is Jake Morrison. I've been a locomotive engineer for 15 years. I've seen a lot of pranks, a lot of characters, a lot of workplace drama. But I've never seen anything as perfect as Mo inviting East to beers with colleagues and delivering 2 hours of hymns and sermons instead. That, my friends, is how you win a prank war without ever lowering yourself to the prank. That's class. That's Mo.